On 2.1, you are determining which pair of arrows you think does not belong. So there's no right or wrong answer here. There is a reason for each one that you could say it doesn't belong. So regardless of what answer you choose, your answer is not wrong. Alright. So the goal for this lesson is to learn how to write addition equations, to add positive and negative numbers, as well as to represent those on a number line. So for A, we started at 40 degrees Celsius and our temperature got 10 degrees warmer. And we finished at 50 degrees Celsius. So our addition equation was 40 plus 10 equals 50. So to represent that on a number line, you start at 0. And since it was 40 degrees Celsius, we go to positive 40 degrees. Our change is 10 degrees. And the warmer tells me I move to the right. So I need to go 10 degrees to the right. So there's 5, 10, which puts me at positive 50. Okay, for B, again, I start at 40 degrees, so 0 to 40. 5 degrees is my amount of change, but this time I'm getting colder, so that means I need to move to the left 5 degrees. So you always start where you left off. So 5 degrees left would put me at positive 35 degrees. So our addition equation would be 40 plus negative 5 equals 35. On C, 30 degrees colder, and we still start at 40 degrees. So 0 to 40. A change of 30 degrees, and it says colder, so that means I'm moving to the left. So 30 degrees to the left. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I end up at positive 10. So my addition equation would be 40 plus negative 30 equals 10. For D, 40, so 0 to 40. My temperature changed by 40 degrees, and I'm getting colder, so I'm moving to the left still. So 40 degrees to the left puts me back at 0. So 40 plus negative 40 equals 0. So positive 40 and negative 40 are called opposites. So any number and its opposite, when you add them, equal 0. So if you notice, your arrows are the same size and they're pointing the opposite direction. So when you add opposites, your arrows will be the same size, but they'll be pointing the opposite direction. Okay, E. Again, we're starting at positive 40. We have a change of 50 degrees, and colder tells me I'm moving to the left. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So I finish at negative 10. My addition equation would be 40. Plus negative 50 equals negative 10. Okay, on number 2, same thing, but we're starting at a negative. So it's the same. We're starting at negative 20, so we would start at 0, and our first arrow would go to negative 20. We have a change of 30 degrees, And warmer tells me that I'm moving to the right. So 30 degrees to the right. So there's 10, 20, 30. So I end up at positive 10. My addition equation is negative 20 plus 30 equals 10. B, 0 to negative 20. My arrow's terrible. 35 degrees. Warmer means to the right. So there's 10, 20, 35. So I end at positive 15. So my equation is negative 20 plus 35 equals 15. For C, again, 0 to negative 20. I have a change of 15 degrees. And again, I'm getting warmer. So 5, 10, 15. I end up at negative 5. So my equation would be negative 20 plus 15 equals negative 5. Last one. Start at negative 20. Change by 15 degrees. Colder. So that means I'm moving to the left. So again, you have to start where you leave off. So left 15 degrees. 5, 10, 15. So that lands at negative 35. So your equation would be negative 20 plus negative 15 equals negative 35. 2.3. One winter day, the temperature in Houston is 8 degrees Celsius. So it says to find the temperatures in the other cities. So in Orlando, it is 10 degrees warmer than it is in Houston. So I know my start is positive 8. And I'm getting a change of 10 degrees warmer. So it's moving to the right. So it's a positive 10. And that gives me 18. So in Orlando, it is 18 degrees Celsius. In Salt Lake City, it is 8 degrees colder than it is in Houston. So Houston is positive 8. I have a change of 8 degrees. Colder tells me I'm moving to the left in the negative direction. So 8 plus negative 8. So these are opposites. So positive 8 and negative 8. When I add those together, I get 0. So it is 0 degrees Celsius in Salt Lake City. In Minneapolis, it is 20 degrees colder than it is in Houston. So again, I start at positive 8. I have a change of 20 degrees. And it's getting colder, so I know I'm moving to the left in the negative direction. So 8 plus negative 20. So think about your number line here. If I move by 4s, it's not at all going to be pretty. So my first arrow would go from 0 to positive 8. I'm moving 20 degrees to the left. So there's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And I end up at negative 12. So that means in Minneapolis it is negative 12 degrees Celsius. Number 4. In Fairbanks, it is 10 degrees colder than it is in Minneapolis. So we have to notice that we're comparing Minneapolis instead of Houston now. So our starting point would be negative 12 degrees. And it is 10 degrees colder. So I'm moving to the left, so I know it's negative. So negative 12 plus negative 10. So think about if I start at negative 12. and I move 10 degrees to the left, because this negative tells me left, I would land at negative 22. So in Fairbanks, it is negative 22 degrees Celsius. Number 5, write an addition equation that represents the relationship between the temperature in Houston and the temperature in Fairbanks. So I know my temperature in Houston was positive 8, so 8 degrees. I don't know my amount of change, but I know the temperature in Fairbanks is negative 22 degrees. So you can think about number lines. So again, I could start, or I could go by my 4s. So there's not a line for negative 22, but I know it would be halfway between here. So if my first arrow went from 0 to positive 8, and my second arrow landed at negative 22, what was my amount of change? So I know from 8 to get back to 0, I had to move 8 units. To get from 0 to 22, I have to move 22 units. So that's a total of 30 units. And I moved to the left, so that's a negative 30. So 8 plus negative 30 equals negative 22. So when we're working with temperature or elevation changes, if it's increasing, then we know we are adding a positive amount. If it is decreasing, then we are adding a negative amount. So we're moving to the left on our number line. So in this first number line, you see that to represent 10, positive 10, you start at 0, and you move all the way to positive 10. On the second number line, to represent negative 4, you start at 0, but you're moving to the left because it's a negative, and you land at negative 4. So on the third number line, to represent addition, we put the arrows tip to tail. So this diagram tells me that first I went from 0 to 3. And then I moved to the right, so I'm adding a positive number. And I moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I moved 5 spaces to the right. And I landed at positive 8. This last number line, so again, I went from 0 to 3. And I moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I moved 5 units again. But now I moved to the left, so that's a negative 5. And I landed at negative 2. So my addition equation would be 3 plus negative 5 equals negative 2.